In example 4, we want to find the angle between vector u and vector v. Previously, if you looked at the other example videos, you would have learned to do the dot product between these two. And if that dot product is 0, then those vectors are perpendicular, so the angle between them would be 90 degrees. And the dot product, if it's not 0, then the vectors wouldn't be perpendicular. But that's all that you would have been able to tell. Now what we're going to try to do here is we're going to try to figure out exactly what the angle is between these two vectors, not just if it's perpendicular or not. We want to be a little more specific about that. To do that, what we need to do is figure out a few different things. We need to figure out the dot product between those two vectors, which is indicated with a dot between the two vector ordered pairs. We also need to find the magnitude of each one of the vectors. We'll do that here shortly. And then there's a formula that we need to use that involves the cosine to figure out exactly what that angle is, or a good approximation of it. So let's work with the dot product right now. So the dot product is going to be 4 times 3, which is 12. Those are your x components multiplied together, plus 3 times 5, which is 15. So those are your y components multiplied together. And then you add them up to get 27. For the magnitude of vector u, we want to do the square root of 4 squared plus 3 squared, which happens to be the square root of 16 plus 9, or 25. So the magnitude there is going to be 5. If we work with vector v has an x component of 3 and a y component of 5. If we square 3, we get 9. Squaring 5, we get 25. And 25 and 9 is 34. And you can't break 34 down any further than it already is. The two factors of 34 are 17 and 2, and you won't have a pair of factors that you can work with to take the square root of. What we're going to do now then is we're going to write what we just learned in the previous concept video here, and that's going to be the cosine of theta is equal to the dot product of the two vectors, which is 27, all over the multiplication or the product of the magnitudes. So here you've got the dot product, here you've got the magnitude of u, and then you're going to have the magnitude of v right here. So that's where those numbers are coming from. Now that gives us what the cosine is equal to, but we actually want to figure out what that angle is. So if you have your calculator out, you're ahead of the game. If you don't, please get it out. And we're going to type this into our calculator. Remember that if you have more than one term or factor in either the numerator or denominator, it's a good idea, and in this case necessary, to write that down with parentheses when you type this in your calculator. So make sure that you're adding the parentheses in there. We usually don't do that when we write out the math because that horizontal fraction bar indicates grouping anyways, so it's like it's stating the same thing twice if you put the parentheses there. But when you type this in your calc, you're going to have to definitely put those in. And you want to use the inverse cosine here because we're solving for an angle. So when you type this in, it should look like this. You'll do 27 divided by, and then you got to do that parenthesis right there. And then you're going to have 5 root 34. And then you can close off your parentheses as such. If you do type that in, you're going to get theta to be approximately 22.2 degrees. So instant recap here, if you're looking to find the angle between two vectors, find the dot product between them, that was here, then find the magnitude of each one, that was here and here, and you're going to substitute those in the formula. You'll be solving for an angle here, so you're always going to want to be using the inverse cosine to do that.